Again, welcome everyone. We have this year we started a program of having double featured readers, and we have both Bev and Bill Cooper, and we're going to start off with Bev. So here's her bio. Beverly Acuff Momoi was written many forms of poetry, but since 2010 was the first publication in modern haiku. She's focused on Japanese short poetry. Selections of her work have appeared in numerous haiku journals, as well as anthologies such as Wishbone Moon, The Wander Code, Echoes 2, A New Renaissance 9, and the upcoming Haiku 2022. Her Haibun collection, Lifting the Tohi Song, was a Snapshot Press Chapbook Award winner and can be read online at no charge at the Snapshot Press website. From 2017 to 2019, Bev served as second vice president of the Haiku Society of America. More recently, she served as one of the panelists for the Touchstone Distinguished Book Awards. She's currently working on a haiku manuscript, and she hopes it will be available later this year. Okay, Bev, take it away.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? I'll start that. Okay, good. Thank you, Gary. And I want to thank you and other members of the leadership team at HPNC, Sue and Carolyn Hall, Paul Miller, and Bruce Feingold for inviting me to read. I'm really, really happy to be here and to see so many people that I know well, although we haven't seen each other in person, and a few new faces. So it's really great to be here. I also want to thank HPNC for all the work that you've done over the past few years. It's been a difficult time, and I have really enjoyed the programming with the Zoom sessions. And I do go to those archives and check out the readings when I have to miss something. So I know it's a lot of work, but it's really, I really appreciate it. It's an honor for me to be invited to read today with Bill Cooper. I've long admired his work, and I'm really looking forward to his reading. And I want to give him a personal thanks for letting me go first. I really appreciate that. As Gary mentioned, I am working on a book manuscript, and so I'm going to be reading some poems from that work in progress. My haiku tend to be about my everyday life. My husband and I live in Mountain View, Northern California, and we spend a lot of time in the nearby Baylands. So you're going to hear some imagery, see some imagery from that part of the country. I've divided my reading into 3 parts, and I'm focusing on the flow, or what I tend to think of as a narrative arc in the reading. So I'm going to read haiku only once, with a few exceptions. As many of you know me, I write a lot of one-line haiku, and some of those lend themselves to different readings. And so on a few occasions, I will read a haiku more than once. So with that, I'll begin with the first grouping. Seeding a pomegranate. You hum a song I don't know. Blue afternoon on your hands, the scent of eucalyptus. Blue afternoon. On your hands, the scent of eucalyptus. Whispering in the red fox's ear, snowflake. Cool light of late snow, early morning jazz. Fresh catnip, letting loose the muse. Crescent moon, every time you tell that joke, I laugh. My mother smiles, talking about her first crush, super pink moon. Hearing my father's voice again, day moon. Dandelion, the swagger of the old Tom. Takes me to my first dance, rose petal wind. You through the half open door, heat shimmer. Late afternoon sun on my arm, purring. Late afternoon, sun on my arm, purring. telling it slant, wishbone flower. Summer blues, never enough trumpets. That last haiku, Summer Blues, came from sitting in an open rehearsal several years ago in Santa Cruz. Joan Zimmerman, who's here today, introduced me to the, I hope I get the name right, Cabrillo Festival of Contemporary Music. Enormously grateful. It's a wonderful summer festival. I grew up in Memphis, which is a great music town. And so music is often figures in my work, and I'm usually aware of the sound qualities. I try to be. But I hadn't realized until I went to Cabrillo just how much I love the messiness of open rehearsals. And in this case, the composer, Gerald Berry, was rehearsing a new work, and he was really getting frustrated. And at one point, he just exclaimed, "More trumpets, where are the trumpets? There can never be enough trumpets." And it's something that just really stuck in my head and resonates with me. So this next section, I'm going to shift gears a bit. And the grouping here, the focus is on loss. Both my mother and my younger sister passed away within 9 months of each other a few years ago. They lived in Florida, and for the better part of a year and a half, I spent much of my time there. So in these haiku, you're going to see a mix of imagery from Florida and California. Haiku was key in helping me get through that period and in processing my grief afterwards. I'm very, very grateful to have haiku in my life. Cannot imagine what people do who don't. So many shades of gray. Dusk deepens the paper wasp nest. Home away from home, someone else's green mountains. Still, as if your life depends on it. Night heron. Uncommon chord change. The cat on the keyboard. Uncommon chord. Change the cat on the keyboard. Witch hazel, she makes me pinky swear. Her voice catching the sudden shift in the stars. Stage 2, counting the spots on the ladybug. Long day, she asks if I can hear bees in the wall. Sunset, how the light changes my mother's eyes. Autumn colors every shade of regret. Autumn colors every shade of regret. Fall equinox, the lizard leaps from leaf to shadow. Her ashes glittering in the updraft, dragonflies. Early winter, I get to know my sister's mother. Family photographs, she remembers all the names of the cats and dogs. Ghost note, the bass line and the backstory. Ghost, note the bass line in the backstory. Wasting moon, not seeing the dropped stitches. Deep snow misspelling my father's name. Deep snow misspelling my father's name. Moonset, the dark edges caught in the cat's yowling. Deep winter strains of the tenor sax. Mourning the big loss in the small snowfall. Tule fog, blurring the edges of the year's hard start. Now, as I've been reading that section, some of you who don't know me well might be thinking, gosh, she writes a lot about her cats. And I do. For going on 20 years, my husband and I have shared our home with anywhere from 1 to 4 cats, depending on the year. And just as they've shaped our days, they've had a hand in shaping my work and prompting me to see things a little differently. In addition to music and cats, I tend to write a lot about the weather. Weather reminds me that human beings are not so important as we think we are, and definitely we're not in control. My sister and I had a running joke between us that we had all the major natural disasters covered: hurricanes, drought, earthquake, tsunami. But when I began pulling my work together for this reading, I realized it wasn't the major disasters or the dramatic weather that was surfacing. Wind had been quietly making itself known in my work, particularly in the past few years. So this is the final section, or grouping section. Alone along the shore, the willet in winter gray. Wind through bare branches, the old order passing away. Withered grasses, the old buckeye still holding up the sky. Winter of no rain, the long-eared hare slips out of the shadows. Winter stars, the distant places we keep our grief. That 4-note hook, again, blue moon. A year after her passing, still no rain. Newsbreak. I sit with the cats and watch Anna's hummingbird. Spring light the change jar on the kitchen counter. Bowing to the muse, wisteria. My biggest fears are nameless moons of Jupiter. All the paths I didn't choose, the Milky Way. A little fuzzy about the meaning of grace, scent of apriums. How the wind sighs every September song. How the wind sighs every September song. All the progressive tenses in one memento mori. How many roads did I miss, autumn light? All Souls Day, the color of salt wind. We all come home in the end, Granny Smith apples. Palms to the sky, bringing me this autumn night to my knees. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev. That was great. Very good. Do we want to let Bev take a few questions, or were we going to have a space between the two readers? Was there a plan there?
Sure. If people have questions, we can have questions for a few minutes.
So if you have anything you would like to ask Bev about her work, here's your opportunity. If not, we'll take a couple minutes to talk about some other things before we enter this bill.
Can I just start, or?
Yes.
Yeah. I was curious about the one-liners that you read in 2 different ways, whether you discovered them as or after you wrote them, or whether you worked with them to get them to have the double readings.
Well, I write a lot of one-liners, and that's a reason they're one-liners. Usually for me is that there's a play, a word that sometimes more than one places where it can be broken. So there's an advantage to putting it in one line that for me, it's when I write it. The short answer is when I write it, I'm aware of that. Or it goes into 3 lines, or more recently, I've been playing around with 2 lines, which I'm still not quite comfortable with, but every once in a while, that seems to play differently. So, so yeah, I am conscious of it when I write it.
Thank you.
So Bev, how many cats do you have right now?
Right now we have one.
Oh, you're
We
down.
have one. Yeah, we went from 4 to 1 fairly quickly. Our cats are senior cats, which is not to say they don't get in trouble and get rowdy, but right now we just have one.
Yeah, I went from three to 1. Now our one is probably about 12 or 13, I think.
Yeah, our one I think he's almost 16 now. So
Well, you turn around and they get old.
yeah. Yes, they do.
My one is 22 years old
Oh,
and she refuses to go.
Well, he's having a good life.
I don't know. She's living in a flat, can't go out. It's not
so have you got a title for your new manuscript that's coming out?
Not yet. I'm playing with a couple of different titles. There were some surprises when I've been putting it together. First, as all of you who put books together know, you can put it together a lot of different ways. So there might be something about the wind in the title, because that was the surprise for me, was how, I mean, I did not even read all of the wind haiku I have written in the past couple of years. So
You know, I find that's common among haiku poets that they have a tendency to have a topic maybe they don't focus on or don't realize they're writing on it quite often. I mean, I can almost pick out certain poets by the topic that they write on.
right.
So, did you have a question?
Do you find yourself writing about wind across all the seasons, or is there one or two particularly that shows up in?
No, it's across all the seasons actually, but the character changes. I would say they're more autumn, but it may just, I mean, I don't know that that's true. I'd have to think about it, but no, I've definitely written about wind across all the seasons.
That's good. Well, Bev, we really appreciate you reading for us. It was
Well,
a
thank
really,
you.
it was a
Again, thanks
wonderful
for
read.
inviting me.
So yeah, so thanks so much.
I have a question. I'm just bad at speaking up.
Sure.
I was just wondering what other guiding principles like you're using to put together the collection, especially you know, thematically, but also like among previously published or unpublished. Like, what do you have any advice?
Well, I don't have any advice. You should talk to someone who's done this a lot more often. But I can tell you what I'm doing. I'm only pulling published poems or published haiku. I've asked friends to weigh in with what they think are my best work, because I find that sometimes that doesn't mean I wouldn't include something that I think is something that's meaningful, but that isn't. But hopefully it's something that other people will want to read, and so it's helpful to get advice from other people about what they think your best work is. And then as for the organizing principle, I would just say that I do adhere to the seasons. I mean, I'm very aware of seasonal transitions, but it's probably not going to be a straight year. Right now, it looks like I'll loop through the years a couple of times, because that makes more sense with the poems that I am probably going to include. And then I'll just say, as a reader, because I've read a lot of books, I personally get a little unsettled when things are out of season. So it makes me think, and sometimes that can be a good thing. I look at it more closely, but for me personally, I just like a seasonal flow. I may whip through the summer really fast, but there's going to be some summer there before we get to fall.
That is a good question, Agnes. I was talking to somebody when we had the short breakout rooms, and we were talking about that privately there, and I think we need to maybe have a program just on publishing books.
That
Maybe-
would be a great program.
I think
I
maybe,
would definitely
I
support
think maybe
that.
we could do like just sort of an outline start to one, and then have everyone just kind of bring in their experiences, so we get a lot of input for the different members, and it can be sort of maybe sort of a workshop, but really maybe more of a talk where we all join in together. Maybe I can get it started, and then we can all just pipe in what, the different experiences people have had doing both self-publishing or submitting to a publisher, and what were your results? How did it go? Did it go poorly? Did it go well? Was it what you didn't expect? I think there's a lot of ways we can touch on that. We haven't done this topic in a very long time, and everybody here is interested in publishing books. So it might be something we might want to do sometime this year. So
I also remember Brad Bennett's here, isn't he?
Yeah.
Brad, I remember when you were talking about this, this was some years ago, about From Drop of Pond, I think you were asked, there were a lot of summer poems. So you started in summer and ended in summer. And so that's a different, it's seasonal, but it doesn't start in quite the same place. And that was interesting to me.
Funny you mentioned that, because I'm finishing up this current manuscript, and I decided to use the same structure starting with summer. It just seems to be me. So yeah.
yeah, I think that's what would be fun about it, is
Yeah.
all the different approaches that people take. And and when you go into self-publishing, there's so many ways you can talk about the how to produce a book. There's
Mhm.
people sit down, they handcraft everything, and they tie it in with twine, and there's other people get staplers and they staple together, and some send it out to a local printer that's high quality and they glue it in. There's all those things, all those different topics, and I think we're due for that conversation. So the officers will talk, and we'll plan a meeting sometime around that topic, I think. So